Lisbon is a sexy city. Portugal is a country of 10 million people. There are 19,000 Americans. We're definitely not moving the needle in terms of putting that type of pressure. After 2 years here, the patina starts
Yeah.
to wear off.
You recently said that you intentionally chose Portugal.
Mhm.
Tell me what that means and how do you get to that intentional decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. So initially, when I had planned my move abroad, which was really my whole life, I wanted to move abroad, it was always New Zealand. And even when I recommitted to it in 2017, during my visit to New Zealand, and in 2020, when I visited New Zealand, it was a go. And then my daughter, who was still in high school but about to go off to college, felt like that was too far. Fair enough. And I had looked at other countries, most notably Costa Rica. While it's a beautiful country, it just wasn't a good fit. I really had to get clear on what it is that I wanted out of my move. I wanted to be somewhere where it was walkable. I wanted to also be in a safe country. I wanted to be in a country where I could get back to the United States, specifically the East Coast, within about a half a day's flight. I just had like certain criteria. I really wanted to have things to do. I wanted to have a life. I didn't want to just be confined to one particular area. And I wanted to travel to different countries because that's something I had been doing for several years. So when I came to Portugal and it was maybe like day 2 or 3, I was like, oh, this is it. And so
You knew right away. Yeah.
I knew. And while I didn't think I would live in Lisbon because I'm from New York City originally, I was like, oh, it's not going to be Lisbon. I had seen other places during my initial visit. I knew there was certain places where I was like, okay, I couldn't see myself in a particular city or town, but overall the country, I was like, oh, okay, you know what? This feels right in my heart. And now fast forward, 2+ years.
Okay.
And no regrets.
And Lisbon has become one of the top destinations for a lot of Americans and a lot of Black American women too. What do you think resonates?
Lisbon is a sexy city.
Yeah,
It really is. Like, I'm a native New Yorker, and I know they say, look, if anything about the United States, it's great at propaganda. New York City is a city that never sleeps and all this other stuff. They clearly, the people that have come up with that slogan, have never been to Portugal, have never been to Lisbon. Lisbon is a cosmopolitan city. You see people from the diaspora everywhere. Everywhere you look, you'll see somebody from, Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, Angola. It's just this beautiful kaleidoscope. People are friendly. Food is great. The nightlife is good. And definitely when you're here in June, my goodness, the whole country is like a nonstop party.
Yeah, I went to Lisbon years ago. I was like on a 2-week trip to Portugal. And even then, back in the day when I actually went to clubs, I remember going to an African club in Lisbon. It was like full of Cape Verdeans, Angolans.
Yeah.
And why June? What's going on in June that we need to know about?
Oh, all the festivals. From May 31st-ish, but the whole entire month. There's a feast of Santo Antonio, at least in Lisbon. And then when you go to different parts of the country, they may be celebrating a different saint based on that particular region. But the entire month, every night, it's party. Like every night.
Wow. Not know that. That's good to know. Yeah. A couple of years ago, I wrote that story about Black women banding together and leaving America. That is definitely continuing, right? Probably at a more accelerated pace than 2 years ago.
A little bit.
Before we dive into your life in Lisbon, what do you feel about this migration movement that's happening?
When, I've been at this for 5 years. And initially, when the pandemic happened, there was a shift. There was an awakening of sorts, right? Because people's routines were altered. And so people started to question, why am I going for this long commute? Or, oh my gosh, I feel so much better working from home because I don't have to deal with the microaggressions. I don't have to be watched all the time. I don't have to watch my tone, the tone police. I don't have to worry about, oh, am I giving off resting bitch face? Like all of
Right.
those things. There were people that were like, oh, wait a minute. If I'm remote, maybe I can be remote from Mexico or
Yeah.
Bali or Portugal. So it gave people time to start asking questions when normally capitalism needs to function. It's not going to let you take a pause. Like rest is
Like a
not.
real. Yeah.
You need to stay on that hamster wheel. You need to keep running
Mhm.
faster.
Right.
And then when you expire, we already got a couple other hamsters running on that wheel. So we're not going to miss you. Now, fast forward 5 years, we're seeing just in, the past few months in the United States, over 350,000 Black women have been shed from the U.S. workforce. And my belief is that, again, it goes back to when these stats get shared, people pay attention and they pay attention to the fact that, oh, wait, they're finding joy. And oh, wait, the highest degreed demographic in the United States are Black women. The people who are entrepreneurs, the fastest rate in America, Black
Right.
women. Everything in America has been a concerted effort to deconstruct the Black family. And who is the beast of burden is the Black women. So that is shown with, getting rid of DEI. That
Yeah.
is shown with all of the Black women leaving the workforce. Some of whom are like, look, it
And
was
not
a gift in disguise because we were tired. But for some of us, it comes with a harsh reality that our entire existence in the United States has been conditional.
We'll dive into what you offer, which is the Blaxit Global, right? Relocation help. But first, so you also worked yourself with the relocation service to move to Lisbon. Like, what made you do that? Is it the language barrier?
I had a lot of balls in the air. My daughter was finishing high school. I
Okay.
was still working full time in my career, also balancing Blaxit Global podcast. So our private community, Blaxit Global Passport. And that particular year, we had 12 families that were moving to Portugal specifically that year, in
Wow.
addition to other countries, and including my own move, right? So I wanted to make sure that I could be as focused as possible. And so I needed to have someone not necessarily do all of the paperwork for me, but to keep me on task. So they operated more in a project management capacity, making sure I hit the deadlines, making sure I obtained everything where I needed that level of structure. And so I found it to be very helpful. And then when it came to having my visa appointment in country in order to get my residency permit, they had someone accompany me who spoke Portuguese. And so that made it that much easier.
How fluent are you now?
Eu
Next
falo
time.
português um pouco.
Ah, I love it.
Estou aprendendo português.
Take like regular classes? Are you?
Yes, I took the government class on A2 level. It's required for citizenship, but that's a moving target right now. For me, coming into this country, I wanted to acclimate. And I didn't want to always default to English. The part of Lisbon that I live in is more local, not a lot of tourists, any tourists really, not a lot of English speakers. And that helps me use my Portuguese every day. After I finished my course in February, I decided that the rest of the year I wanted to apply what I learned. And then next year, what I want to do, even though it's not required, I want to take the intermediate level so that I can continue to advance my language skills.
They also help you with finding a place to stay, or like how hard is that finding housing?
Ooh, well,
Hard, right?
it's hard and it's gotten harder.
Lisbon is like having housing issues, right?
Yes, yes. Lisbon, really a lot of the areas where you see more expats. Less, I don't hear a lot of housing pressure down in Algarve. There tends to be more Brits down that way. I haven't heard anything about having any housing issues there. But in Porto, Lisbon, there is definitely some housing pressure. Demand is outpacing supply. The rates have gotten ridiculous, to be honest. And, it's unfortunate, of course, not just because I choose to live in this country, but also for the locals.
Right.
They are are where if they wanted to move that they can't. And then what we're also seeing is that the young people, the wages are low, they can't afford to live on their own. And so many of the younger generation are going to other countries where they can earn a higher income and have, money either to send back to their relatives here in Portugal or at least carve out a life for themselves that they can't have here.
Yeah, so that's happening in a lot of places, also like Mexico City. Always struggle with this. I always like to debate what responsibility do Americans have in moving to places like that? How do you offset your presence?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you think about?
I do. It's multifaceted because, when you look at what has happened, so we'll go back a little bit. So 2008, 2009, when we had the global economic crisis, Portugal was hit really bad. Their economy really almost cratered. And the government came up with a solve, which was the Golden Visa initiative. Yes. And so what they had was a lot of foreign investment. And with now 29 EU member countries, they have freedom of movement. So they don't have to do the same visa processes that I have to do. They just get in a car, and if I'm from France, I can come in my real estate over here. If I'm from Spain, etc. So what you saw was a lot of French buying, a lot of property, UK pre-Brexit, and then some US investment as well as other countries. But then you also have an influx of people from former colonies, right? Brazil, Mozambique, all of Guinea-Bissau. So you have a lot of people coming in. There's about 500,000-ish Brazilians in the country. And Portugal is a country of 10 million people. At the last stat I saw, which was 2024 data, there are 19,000 Americans. So
little in comparison to
2%. You're definitely not moving the needle in terms of putting that type of pressure. That said, yes, there's a responsibility to be concerned about what's going on, but everybody that I know, their landlords are Portuguese. Right. It's not like their landlords are foreigners. And so my rent is high compared to what a Portuguese person would pay, but my landlords, which own 3 of the 4 units on this floor, are Portuguese.
Right. I mean, because there's no regulation, right? Are they regulated in terms of that? No, probably not. It's kind of like a pension where you get.
Exactly. And I get it from their perspective in the sense that if you're in this country and wages are low and you have, because of the way the laws work in terms of beneficiaries, like when, a parent passes or grandparent, it goes within the family. So many people have more than one property because they've inherited. Mm-hmm. So if you're sitting on a piece of property and you're seeing now all of this foreign investment in demand and you're getting paid 700 euros a month or 800 euros a month, and now you have an opportunity to really improve your quality of life by charging this American 1,900 euro.
Yeah.
Even though you know that your fellow citizen can't afford it, that's what's happening. And the easy scapegoat is to say it's the foreigner because I can't vote. I don't have a say, right? I don't have a voice. There's only 19,000 Americans in here. Yeah. And so that's what I mean. Like the answer is very nuanced and layered.
Was it hard to get your residency? Like how hard or easy is it?
2 years ago it was much easier than what people are facing today.
Yeah, you've made it tougher.
Absolutely. And even when I did my process, it had changed maybe 3 months before. So for example, like when Shar and some of my other friends came into the country, they could mail in their documents. Then they changed it had to be in person. So then I had to go into Washington, D.C. And so there are just a lot of different components that were altered. But, like I said, since mine and, we have various members in Blaxit Global Passport. Now we have 30 plus members in Portugal. And they're telling me, when we have our accountability group, like, oh, wow, this is now a new requirement, or this document used to be valid for 6 months, is now only valid for 3 months, and you have to have it apostille. So just these, constant changes that people need to stay abreast of. specifically about Portugal, but definitely all countries are examining the influx of foreigners, and they do have a right to make changes. And that's something that
Sure.
we as Americans aren't necessarily used to, but only because we're not typically immigrants. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah.
What is an average budget like?
My budget is about 2,700 to 3,000 a month on average.
And then you run a company. Give us kind of like an overview.
Yeah, I retired from my corporate life. I happily, looked at the numbers, and the numbers were in my favor. And I said, oh, I have enough where I don't need to go back to that life. It was rewarding in some aspects, but exhausting, more exhausting than rewarding. And I decided to continue to do the thing that lit me up, and that's Blaxit Global. And so that has been really the shining light and the shining star in this whole story.
So tell us a bit about Blaxit Global.
Yeah, it's all online. So monthly we have our workshops and accountability group in our Blaxit Global Passport community. It's a community that has mostly aspiring expats and some people that are mostly in Europe. We really, put a lot of energy into shepherding people through the process, irrespective of where they're moving in the world. So we've helped people move to Spain, Vietnam, Portugal. I attract more people because I'm here, but it's a great thing. I know I'm biased. No major obstacles. I am about 5 hours ahead of East Coast time. We also have members that are on the West Coast, so sometimes I have to remember that when I'm scheduling accountability groups. And then we have members that are in the UK as well and other parts of the world. And then we also have our Blaxit Global podcast. So we are about to start season 8 in January. I interview Black expats all over the world, highlight the voices and stories, because for me, even though I was planning my move and I started the podcast many years before I moved, it was an opportunity to find out, like, when I would search for, insert country X.
Yeah.
Search results were coming back with people that didn't look like me, stories that I couldn't necessarily identify with. But I was like, look, we've been migrating for centuries, and I know we were out there. This gives us an opportunity to have other people listen firsthand about other people's experiences. And oftentimes they're able to identify either with the desire that was the catalyst for them to move abroad, the country that they might be in, or get inspired about the life that they've created since they decided to leave.
Yeah. I also asked you about that because I think a lot of folks' biggest fear is, what if I run out of money, or what if I go broke and then have to go back? And so you've managed to establish like this business that you run remotely, and it's like your primary source, right, of income?
Yeah. I would say it supplements. Yeah.
But you built it before you went abroad.
Yes.
Whenever you move somewhere, I mean, you can love it, but at some point there's a challenge or two.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, after 2 years here, the patina starts to wear off, so you start to see little edges. Yeah, and you see, like, oh, when you first move in, you're like, oh, everything's in 4K, and oh, the country can do no wrong, like, I remember, like, my first day, I stepped in like a big thing of dog food. I was like, I just put on a brand new pair of sneakers, and I'm like, oh, and then it's okay, clean it off or whatever, like all of that stuff. Right now, I was like dealing with these stray dogs in the neighborhood, and I'm like, why aren't they doing anything? Like, I keep calling the police and like,
that's hilarious.
So I would say the bureaucracy is just, oof. I mean, people warn you about it before, but until you experience it firsthand, it's next level. Like, I'm convinced that even when there is like an efficient or fairly efficient process, that there's somebody's job to make it less efficient and more complicated than it needs to be. That's somebody's job security. I'm convinced there's a Portuguese woman named Mafalda, and she is sitting there, and that is her job.
That's hilarious. I've gone through so many things like that in the Caribbean. And
I can imagine.
the thought of somebody actually being hired to do it is really
Yeah.
funny. Like,
Yeah. That's the job. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. So yes, that's what I would
okay.
say is like the
Anything else?
biggest.
Hmm.
I don't have a car, but I do rent cars. I would say I probably rent cars more often than anybody here, only because I'm within walking distance of the airport. So the rental car places are right there and they're affordable. So now when I do have a car, like I have a car for the week, I drive these roads. I've driven in other countries like New Zealand on the opposite side of the road and other countries, but I don't know. Some of these roads in Portugal, it's like it doesn't look like a road, but then it's actually a road. But then the road that looks like a road, if you get on it, will take you way out, and there's no other way. Like there's no way to get off that road, so you will drive for miles.
Outside of Lisbon, right?
Within Lisbon too. Like the other day, I was supposed to go left, and I was like, oh, I had just come around this roundabout, and I knew I was like, well, or I thought that I could take this one turn because I just did it a few minutes earlier. But apparently, in that lane, you can't do that. There was a big cement barrier, and I had to go over the Vasco da Gama Bridge, which is 24 kilometers, and you just gotta like, there's no
Wow.
way to get off. And then I
Wow.
had to turn around and come back. Like 20, and I was like,
I find that part to be probably one of the most intimidating of, moving abroad is the whole
yeah,
driving and
yes. I
wow.
just had to laugh. Like, just when I think I know this country,
Yeah,
it's like, nope.
just when you think.
Or the other day, I was up north taking a few days to relax, and I was
Yeah.
trying to get to this little cafe. And they said coming up there, because it was on a mountain, that I should use Waze, which normally I use Google Maps. So I'm like, okay, so maybe I need to also use it to find this thing. I'm following Waze and I'm going down this mountain, and it tells me to go down this one street. And it says Camino, and I'm like, wait a minute, Camino is walking, but it's telling me to go down this thing, and it knows I'm driving. And as soon as I started driving down it, I was like, no, I don't think this is really a road.
Was it
And I had to carefully back up. And so I'm like, okay. So then I go down a little further, and then it tells me to go down this other road. And as soon as I go down there, I'm like, what happens? It really was not a road. I got stuck, but I couldn't back up because there was no rail, and I was going to go over the mountain.
Oh
So
my
I was
god.
like, so
So what do
thank
you
God a Portuguese man came out of his house, this older man. He's smoking his cigarette, and he's just looking, and I'm trying to carefully back up, and he's just smoking his cigarette. Then I
like
see him
the
start coming towards me, and then I come out of the car, and he speaks no English. So I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a test. And so I was trying to explain to him what happened and that I needed to turn around, but there was no room to turn around.
what did you do?
And so he was just
You
like,
did it?
what? Then his wife comes down and she starts talking Portuguese.
The whole like our neighborhood affair, yeah.
Yes. And so thank God for him because he helped me, inch the car back where
Yeah.
I could safely turn around. But yeah, that was an experience.
Wow, that would freak me out for sure.
I was 4 hours away from Lisbon, like up a mountain. There was
Lord.
Oh yeah, I shook his hand at the end, but my hand was shaking because I
Oh,
was just like,
yeah,
my gosh.
okay. That's-
Don't trust Waze.
Any moments of like bias that you've experienced?
I haven't with Portuguese people. If
Okay.
I have had any experience of feeling othered, it's usually with a foreigner.
Yeah,
It's always been a foreigner.
it's
Even
funny how
when I've gone to other countries,
I can identify with that. That's for sure. How do you make friends with Portuguese there in Lisbon, or is it hard?
I've been fortunate. During the pandemic, I took a course on how to create a course, and it was 2,000 people in the course. And that particular year, they decided to break people up in by affinity. And so we had these smaller accountability pods, and our accountability pod was four of us. So it
Okay.
was three black women and one white woman. Coincidentally, she was living in Canada. She was of Portuguese descent. And we, kept in touch loosely over the years that followed. And so when I came to Portugal in 2022, I had messaged her and was like, hey, I'm coming to Portugal. Is there anything I should check out? She's like, well, I live here now. We should meet up. And I was like, oh, great. Like, I haven't, be a first time seeing each other in person. So we spent my next to last day here, spent the entire day together. She helped me transition here. And so now I've been here, and usually Emily and I hang out maybe once a month. She lives about almost an hour from here. So she'll come down once a month and we'll have like a girls' weekend. And also I host events, we just had our 5-year anniversary. So last weekend we had a yacht party, and then the Exodus Summit crew was here. So Stephanie and Rashida. And so we had a big meetup. And so because I host events now, I've been able to collaborate with different Portuguese vendors, which has been really great. So my friend Bruno, who does wine, he's a wine sommelier. So we were able to collaborate this time.
How long did it take for you to really feel like you're really rooted in Lisbon?
I would say I'm rooted in the country, not necessarily rooted in Lisbon.
Okay, interesting. I'd love to know more about that. Do tell.
Yeah, I mean, the story is Emily and I. So the year before I moved, she lives in Nazaré, which is famous for the 100-foot waves. It's on the Silver Coast. And I was torn because I never thought I was going to live in a big city again, especially after living in the suburbs for 20-something years after I moved out of New York City. And so I was torn between, okay, I love Lisbon, but I also love Nazaré. And I was going back driving her crazy for a year. I was like, oh, maybe I want to be in Nazaré. Look for apartments for me in Nazaré. Oh, no, I want to be in Lisbon. So I would go back and forth. Then I finally chose Lisbon. But the plan, I should say, from the jump was to do the first 2 to 3 years in Lisbon and then move further out. And so I'm at that point now where, I've done all that I've wanted to accomplish in Lisbon, and I'm ready to have my story evolve into another chapter, still in Portugal, but not necessarily in Lisbon.
And that's okay. I think, a lot of people think once they choose a place, it's either or. You stay there or you leave, but you don't have to. Like, there's a whole country still.
Yeah, it's a beautiful country. And, even now, just coming back a couple of days ago from up north, I was like, wow, it's just more breathtaking. And that was my first time going that far north, and just a completely different atmosphere. Cuisine is different. It was just really, really nice.
And you've lived there now a few years already. What's the mood there right now? Mm-hmm.
There has been a lot of change. A lot of change. Still smiling. Definitely, I'm still smiling. But there is change. There has been a growing right-wing movement. And unfortunately, with every election, they continue to make more inroads. And this coming January, the president is up for re-election. Since I've been here, we've had 3 parliamentary elections, and each time this particular wing has grown. With that, there is a very growing anti-immigrant sentiment. Immigrants are being blamed for, the fact that young people are leaving, the fact that jobs are being taken away, that rents are going high, or there's, like I said earlier, a lot of housing pressure, services that are not as accessible as they once were because there's so many people. And while some of those things are true, I'm not going to say that they aren't. Again, it goes back to it being more layered and always finding a scapegoat. We do it in the United States. Oh, when there's a mass shooting, oh, it's not the people, it's the gun. Or, oh, that person had mental health issues. Or, insert whatever scapegoat.
We also see it here with gentrification, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wealthier folks displacing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at Harlem. The Harlem way.
Brooklyn.
Harlem, Newark, New Jersey. I mean, when they put Whole Foods, I was like, y'all got Whole Foods in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
so
can't say that all is lost. I try
no,
not to be
yeah,
fatalist about that because, there were similar things that happened in the United States. United States, good, bad, or indifferent, is still a superpower.
yeah,
And, when you look at Canada, Canada almost had a similar type of right wing leadership
yes,
coming, after Trudeau, but they saw kind of like where America was going, was like, wait, no, no,
yeah.
we're not going to be like that. France, similarly. And then they were able to kind of push that back from, electorate perspective. Unfortunately, the
The
United
UK is going
States.
the other way. The UK is also.
Yes, exactly. And that should be, the biggest lesson. It's not because the United States opted for a sequel.
And the truth is that there's still a lot of good as well. And there
Can't lose sight of that, right?
can't. Yeah, exactly. A lot of what I like to focus on is what I call being a
Hmm.
conscious resident. You're not
Yes.
just thinking of your own benefits, but you're also
Hmm.
thinking how you're going to fit into society there and embrace the culture. What would be your advice for an American who's moving to Lisbon?
Definitely getting community, not just in the expat bubble. Fortunately, in Lisbon specifically, there's a great group called Intercambio Diaspora,
Okay.
and it's run by a Black American and another gentleman who is of the diaspora, and I can't remember off the top of my
Okay.
head what particular country he came from. There are people from all of the different countries, and it's a language exchange. Part
Cool.
of the time we speak in English, the other part of the time we speak in Portuguese, and then usually each particular session, someone gives a talk about the country that they've come from, or cuisine, or flag, or a song, or something. So that's our way of kind of bridging the divide, not just from language perspective, but, embracing our cultures and also understanding that as a Black American, while I have my experience here, that may be very different from someone who comes from one of the former colonies that lives here. They may have a very different experience and perspective on their life here.
Knowing what you know now and what you've lived through your move and everything, what would you tell Chrishan, who was on the plane on the way to Portugal to move there? What would you tell that version of yourself?
Oh, wow. It's only going to get better and it's going to exceed your wildest expectations.
Wow, that's glowing review. Okay.
It's true. It's true. I tell people, even with, we have our scouting program, Nomad Noir. And so our ladies just left a few weeks ago. They were scouting with me for 10 days. So that's our signature scouting program, especially this particular cohort with two of them who had followed me for a number of years. And I said, okay, was it hype? And they were like, no, 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 no. Like, I was like, did I ever oversell it or did I undersell it? And they're like, oh no, it like lived up to our
Yeah.
expectations.
Tell me about your scouting program.
Nomad Noir is our 10-day scouting program. It takes place twice a year. So we have a spring cohort and a fall cohort. Fall cohort just left. And actually, one of the ladies that joined our spring cohort earlier this year ended up moving to Portugal in September. So she was here scouting in March and moved here in September. It's really a wraparound program. So you get to meet with an immigration attorney, a medical doctor. This particular cohort, I layered on some other pieces. They spent time with a tax attorney. It really gives them the opportunity to get all of their questions answered, as well as, fun activities, scouting different locations. And each cohort is different. So they fill out an interest form and I use those inputs to design the experience. And so no
Okay.
two cohorts have been the same.
Yeah.
This particular one of our attendees is blind. The other one is mobility impaired. And so
Wow.
this one definitely did not mirror any of the previous cohorts, but it was really a fun experience.
That doesn't get talked about a lot. Accessibility. What is
Mm.
that like in Lisbon?
It's tough for Americans because while there's a lot to criticize about America, one thing that they do well compared to Europe for sure
Yeah.
is the ADA, right? You have more accessibility. So
Yeah.
Portugal, specifically Lisbon, like today I was coming from Pilates and the particular station that I was at had 3 big flights to come from where the train let you off to go, not even to the top to get out. I still had another flight on top of that, and the escalator wasn't working. And so I had to walk so I had to stop midway because I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
But what about those
So
hills too? There's so hilly.
oh, in the hills, right? Lisbon is a city on
Yeah.
7 hills, and depending
Yeah.
on the day, you might encounter all 7. It's an old city, so you're not going to often encounter curb cuts, or you'll have the audio that'll tell you when it's time to cross or how many seconds that you have. So the cues. You may not have braille on the elevator buttons or just things like that that
Yeah.
people who have different mobility and accessibility needs might be used to in the United States, that they don't have that. They haven't advanced as much in Europe. It's not because those people don't live here. They do. I see visually impaired people here all the time, taking the subway, taking the buses, taking the trains,
Yeah.
but they're oftentimes locals, and they've, gotten used to it. And so it can be a little unsettling, but thankfully, the ladies, when they came here, Olivia in particular, was able to loop in with an association for the visually impaired here in Lisbon. And she was able to meet with them during her stay here and find out what other services that they had to help her transition, because they want to live independently. And
I
just
know.
because you're moving or have a desire to move abroad, you don't have to count yourself out, because
Mm,
your situation might be different from everyone else's. It
sure.
just might need to have different levels of planning.
Right. That's a really good point. To wrap up, fill in the blanks. Living in Portugal has taught me that.
Ooh, there isn't anything that I can't do if I put my mind to it. Yeah, yeah. 'Cause I mean, the original plan was to move to an English speaking country. It
Right.
was not to move to a country where I didn't know the language. And to be here, 2+ years, and I've not had one night where like I've come home and I've been exhausted or exasperated because I couldn't do something, or frustrated because I couldn't explain something, or I was misunderstanding. Nothing like that. Like, I've never had that happen. So if I could do this, yeah, there's nothing I can't do.